The Manitowish Waters Historical Society is pleased to present an interview of Bill Carothers, a Statehouse Lake YCC camper in 1968. This was recorded by Jim Bokern at the North Lakeland Discovery Center on June 23rd, 2023. Here you see Bill in his YCC jacket standing outside the Statehouse Youth Conservation Camp gate as his dad was driving him away from a great 6 weeks spent in the Northwoods, living on the campus at Statehouse Lake, and then going into the forest and doing assorted work duties. You'll hear about this and more in the upcoming interview. Bill's son, Matt, brought him to the North Lakeland Discovery Center, and the two of them stood proudly in front of Bill's cabin from 1968, Redhead. And Bill was very pleased to see Cabin Row being just like he saw it. The first year he came to camp, the cabins were completed and the YCC boys moved out of their tents. And today he stands there proudly with his family. We hope you enjoy this presentation and get some insights into what it was like to be a camper at the YCC and all the great accomplishments the Youth Conservation Corps brought to Wisconsin. Greetings.
Greetings.
Please introduce yourself and tell me where you're from.
My name is Bill Carothers. I'm from Edgerton, Wisconsin, and I was a camper at Statehouse Lake the summer of 1968.
Very good. What attracted you to Statehouse Lake and the YCC?
Well, our family all are familiar with the country back then, always lived in the country growing up on farms and loved the outdoors. Dad was an avid hunter and fisherman, so he always had us kids in the outdoors. Also, camping was big for our family, so always grew up really attracted to the outdoors.
And so the YCC seemed like a perfect fit for you.
It did, and one year the school counselor at my high school announced that there were applications available for summer work with the YCC. So I applied through the high school counselor and then was accepted and got a letter from camp. I think it came from the camp director, Bob Brewsmaster, telling the campers what to bring for personal gear, boots, work clothes, rain gear, and come ready to work, but we were going to have a good summer.
Great. Were you here for the whole summer or a 3.5 week stint?
I believe it was 6 weeks.
6 week stint. Okay. Very good. What did the YCC camp look like when you were here? How was it different?
When I got here in 68, the cabins on Cabin Row were brand new the previous year. And so it went from a tent camp just prior to me to a cabin camp.
And when you were at camp, what was a typical day like as a Statehouse Lake camper?
Well, a typical day was an early rise. You know, we'd get called to get up, and before going to the mess hall, you had to make your bunk, make sure the cabin was in order because the cabins were inspected every day, and they expected cleanliness and order in the cabins. And then we'd assemble for a flag raising ceremony and proceed to the mess hall for breakfast. And after breakfast, each cabin would be drawn for a work detail. For that week, I think typically we were drawn on a Monday, and then you served a work detail somewhere for the week.
Okay. I hear those work details were popsicle sticks that you would put on a board. Is that correct?
Yes, yep, that's correct.
And not all work details were equally valued by the campers.
Correct. I was never drawn for KP, which I did appreciate that, I guess, as a young guy in the summer. I wanted to be in the woods.
And so when you went into the field and you were drawn for your 6 weeks of work during your stay here, what were some of the jobs you had in your rotations in the field?
Well, one of the rotations I was in was trimming red pines on a pine tree plantation. So we'd spend the days with a pole saw trimming the red pines as high as we could reach. And that was a great week. It was hard work, you know, you had some sawdust coming down on you and a little bit of pine pitch, but you always had the smell of fresh conifers, and so it was a great week out there.
Did you have any other details, or were you just on the limb saws the whole time?
No, other work details were chopping firewood at a state campground with double-bitted axes. They brought in big piles of wood already cut to the desired length, and then we'd spend the day with the double-bitted axe splitting the firewood for campsites. But that week we got a little bit longer breaks at lunchtime because you'd have to resharpen your axe with a file. So it was fun, and I enjoyed chopping wood.
Great. So you're chopping wood with a double-bitted axe. There's some safety concerns. Did they train you? Did they try to keep you safe in any way?
They did, yes. The counselor showed us beforehand, and the first thing we had to do every day is get on hard hats and shin guards and steel toe guards, and they showed you the proper stance and method to chop the firewood. And then they also demonstrated how to sharpen your axe with a file.
Excellent. Were there any accidents or incidents?
Not that I recall, other than you would hear an axe clink off a steel toe guard once in a while, but it may have been an accident without the toe guards.
Duly noted. So the toe guards were a definite benefit for everybody involved. As we think about working in the field, how did they get you out there? What was transportation like?
It was buses from camp. Typically, we did a project one week in Paul Marsh when I was here, and we cleared part of the shoreline in front of a garage building that was located in the Paul Marsh area. And after clearing the shoreline, we built a structure to temporarily capture ducks and geese to band them. The DNR was going to band waterfowl at Paul Marsh at a later date. And then after building that structure, we also constructed picnic tables at Paul Marsh.
Very good. So you're doing forestry, helping with recreation, wildlife habitat. You're kind of doing the whole rotation of the DNR at that time.
Yes.
And did you ever run across DNR employees, particularly Paul Brenner or Ralph Hewitt?
Possibly. I don't remember names, but one really neat detail I had for one day when I was up here was going with a DNR employee on the turtle flambeau flowage, and we launched at a landing near Mercer on the flowage, and I spent the day with him going to the state forest campgrounds on the islands, and we collected the trash from the islands. I believe we went on a Monday, so we went after a weekend of campers being out there, and we collected the trash and policed the campsite. And then at the end of the day, on the way back, we stopped at what I called the local bear dump and deposited the trash that we had picked up, and then he brought me back to camp.
Oh, so you went to the bear dumps. Did you ever do that here? Because the dump is right next to Statehouse Lake. I'm sure the
Yep,
bears were around.
we did. Yep, we did. And in fact, after camp, I shared that with my dad and my brother when they came to pick me up. We went out there for an evening to see the bear dump.
And tell me, you see bears?
We did.
Okay.
Yes, we did.
Other cars out there, right?
There was, yeah. Yes, there was.
This was a great cultural destination in the town of Manitowish
It
Waters.
was.
It's in newspapers. It's in people's stories. Yeah, there's actually a map that said it's got a picture of a black bear over it. They call it the Gar Bear Ridge Dump.
Yes, yeah.
All right. So that again is more recreational and habitat improvement, and that's when the DNR was really trying to promote more recreation in this
Yes.
area. So that makes really good sense. So when you were at camp, did you have any camp improvement projects? They built these cabins, they built the amphitheater, they moved the PX in. Was there a project for you guys?
I believe that summer we did some new gravel installation around camp and mainly down to the swimming area. Yep, wheelbarrows and a pile of gravel and shovels and rakes. And
Yeah.
we also did that for one week detail at, I can't remember exactly which campground or natural area, but we spent a week with wheelbarrows, gravels, rakes and shovels, and some blacktop. Part of it was new trail work, and part of it was restructuring old trail.
Very good, very good. So you had a lot of different work details. So
Yes.
there was some nice variety.
It was.
in what you were doing.
Yes.
So in these activities, did it inspire you or motivate you to continue into forestry?
It actually did, and I really liked Mr. B. Mr. B kind of reminded me of Dad. Both war veterans, both straightforward guys that expected you to work and kind of stay in line. But at the end of the day, when work was done, it was okay to relax and have some fun playing softball and that. And actually, when I was a senior in high school, I applied to UW Stevens Point. And at that time, I wanted to go into wildlife. But after I graduated, I got a really good job for the summer as a maintenance person in a factory and was pretty well paid for the time. So I made a career of that, but I've always loved the outdoors, and that's where I was pointed at one time right after high school was UW Stevens Point.
And that seems to be a common destination for many of the alumni here at Statehouse Lake. So let's talk about some of those social opportunities here at Statehouse Lake. Since softball, what were the things you guys did socially and for fun?
Well, socially, we'd have time every evening after work. We could go down to the beach and swim. We could hike the woods here nearby as long as we were back at a certain time for supper. We had one softball game against the crew of guys from Camp McNaughton came over, and we played softball with them. We got to walk to Manitowish Waters occasionally, and the buses would take us to Woodruff, Minocqua. So when we were on the buses, there was time for a little sing-along of whatever the popular songs were of that era. And also we had evenings of movies right here at camp, campfires and some singing around the campfire right here at camp. So entertainment was really good.
Now, I heard that they sometimes had skits and shows that the campers put on. Is that correct?
Yeah, I watched some. I don't recall participating. I was a little more shy. I guess I wasn't one to jump up there and entertain other people.
But I think Brismaster encouraged that, and he encouraged music as well, did he
He
not?
did, yeah, just an absolutely great guy. In fact, all the counselors and camp staff, they worked with you during the day and helped you have fun, when the workday was done.
So, did you have a favorite counselor or a person who sticks out in your mind?
A couple of cabin mates stick out in my mind, Bob Bath and Gary Dombrowski. I think they were both from southeastern Wisconsin, but great guys, and great guys to spend the summer with.
Super, super. So, within the campus here, there is a post-exchange or clubhouse.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that worked with the campers?
Well, I know there were a couple times a week when you were expected to write home. So part of our stay every week, we would have to arrive showing that we either wrote a postcard or a letter to home. And that was something that our counselors in the cabin and Mr. B and the assistant counselor under Mr. B, everyone encouraged, and they might remind you if they seen you on one of the walking paths, are you ready to go to PX with your letter? So it was great encouragement.
Well, that's good. And it's always good to communicate with home.
Yes.
So, I imagine some of the guys were homesick. I mean, for many of them, it was probably the first time they were away. And,
Yeah, yep.
And to keep those connections would be key. Did weather ever impact you here? Ever any big storms, some cleanup, hot days?
I remember some rainy days when we were in rain gear, and I remember some hot days, but I don't remember a big storm impacting the summer I was here.
Alrighty. And so when you were done, would you be one of the guys who would race down to the waterfront and use the slide and jump in the lake and so on?
Yeah, yep, or grab a canoe with a buddy and go around the lake a little bit. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so when you think about the whole development of this area and you think about what it is today, what do you miss most about back in the day when you were here 55 years ago?
I guess I'm a little old school when it comes to the woods. I still use an axe occasionally or a bow saw. I mean, I have newer implements, but I still enjoy some of the old hand tools. Once in a while, like chopping wood for campfire at home is usually with a double-bitted axe rather than a splitting maul, but I still enjoy that.
I bet you have a lot of muscle memory from doing it for all those weeks at some campsite here in the Northern Highland American Legion Forest.
Yes, it was really enjoyable.
Great, great. So when you think about who you are today and what you do, touch again on maybe how Statehouse Lake and this experience influenced you later in life.
Well, I think Mr. B and his counselors really did a good job of helping young men get on the path of being respectful, hardworking, and working as a group, not just individually, but showing us how to work as a group and be mindful of those around you. And also our flag ceremonies showed us that, we needed to respect country and family. And I think it was just a great experience, both work-wise during the day and then in the off hours, showing us it's okay to have fun, and our work days behind us. So I think it was just overall something that I've tried to emulate as father, and teach my children correctly, just like Mr. B showed us.
Very good. I see you have some notes and memorabilia in front of you here. Is there other things you'd like to share?
Well, I have some notes here that I tried to highlight, so as we went through this conversation, I could look down and perhaps help me remember. One of the things I did remember about the jackets that we were given as we came to camp the first day. Although it was summertime and you didn't really need your jacket a lot of us liked to wear them to town. And usually when our group was in town, it was pretty easy to spot us. And local people, both in Manitowish Waters and the Woodruff-Minocqua area, might stop you and ask you, what was going on at camp. So you might tell a local resident a little bit about what work detail you had that week and how your summer was going. So that was kind of nice to be able to relate to the local people and maybe vacationers also in the area.
Okay. Other items that you have in your notes?
One thing that, when I left camp at the end of the summer at 68 and went home, it was kind of like that was really a great summer, and I went home and told my family about it and how much I enjoyed it. And I guess my year at Statehouse Lake wasn't quite done, because that year at Christmas, Mr. B sent all the campers a postcard for Christmas with a picture of him and his dog out in front of the main building in the snow, and he's holding up a pair of snowshoes, and wished all of us, Merry Christmas and thanks for being at Statehouse Lake. So that was neat.
So he was a driving force,
He
a
was.
powerful leader with vision and discipline, but also a strong measure of fun when you do it the right way.
Exactly, and for him to remember campers at Christmas was pretty special.
Yeah, class act.
Class, very class.
Yeah. Other stories. These are better than my questions.
Well, I have a picture I brought that shows me in front of the sign for Statehouse Lake with my YCC
Tilted straight? Okay.
my
There we go.
jacket on. So when Dad came to pick me up, I wanted a picture at the sign before I left. So I guess that shows it was pretty special summer.
Very good. Well, I'll tell you, this has been outstanding. And, the Discovery Center has maintained and preserved large elements of the YCC experience just by the tour that we had moments ago. What's your opinion of what you see going on around here with the North Lakeland Discovery Center in context of your time at Statehouse Lake?
I really think it's outstanding the way that the Discovery Center has maintained Cabin Row, an authentic lineup, and the cabins authentic the way they were built, and that, they're collecting and sharing information from campers and what it was like the summers we were here. And they also have a nice collection of memorabilia from the time. The double-bitted axes are there, the toe guards are there, and the helmets. So it's really nice to see that.
Yeah, they prize their legacy as part of the YCC experience as where they're on the campus, and then really carrying the environmental conservation goals forward and providing vital education. Well, Outstanding. Well, thank you so much for joining us and making the trip up. And please join us again and share anything that you may come across in your records and collections.
Thanks, Jim.
You bet.